Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and fight fans around the world. It's your boy P. Welsh here for another previews, predictions, and picks here. Coming in with a little recap from last week. 8-3. Started off with a loss from Mullins, one with Almeida, one with Matsumoto. Didn't pick this fight. Hugo is a replacement from Engtong Lee. It was a scratch fight. I picked Duman to win. Lost Walter Volker, unanimous decision. Lost Court McGee Morono, 3-3 to start. And then in the main card, Charlie Campbell. We had Bahamondes. We had Chepi Mariscal, Damon the Demon, and Brendan Allen. Three straight split decision wins. Very fortunate to get the judges' decisions right there. But 8-3 week going into the big slamma jamma, big mama UFC 300. Pereira and Hill breaking down an absolutely fire card. Let's see how it goes this week. And Daddy Dana starting us off strong in the bantamweight division, starting us off with two former champions, Davison Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt, 22-3 versus and one draw versus 14-5. Figueiredo making his bantamweight debut, and Garbrandt perennial on a three-fight win streak, I believe. So it should be really interesting to see how this fight goes. I think you're gonna just feel that fight tension in the air. You're gonna feel the electricity of the evening with two former gold belt champions stepping into the octagon to start off our night. I wouldn't be surprised if this fight goes the distance. We go to the judges' scorecard. I am definitely leaning Figueiredo. I think he can just potentially do the damage. I.e., also Garbrandt's chin might just not be able to handle what Figueiredo might be able to get to him. More so in like the dirty boxing, the elbows, even a shoulder, doing the damage to then lay the combinations, the kicks to get it in there. But Garbrandt's going to be moving. He's going to be kicking. He's going to be throwing out there for a 3-round fight. I mean, God, I wish all these fights were 5 rounds, because if this was a 5-round fight, I definitely think Figueiredo is easy. But in a 3-round fight, I think Garbrandt can wrestle him, control the rounds, and I mean, this one is definitely, I think, a lot closer than the odds will make it. And I also additionally think that it will go the distance, because I think Figueiredo might be the only guy to catch Garbrandt on the chin. But, Garbrandt's got that 1 KO power, man. If he hits Figgy and gets him in a bad spot and starts wailing him like, any finisher does, he's got a nice height advantage. That's crazy. He's 3 inches taller, but has a reach disadvantage. I think we'll see a lot of movement, a lot of kicks, a lot of high intensity movements, right? Everything is going to be intense about this fight. It's going to start off the evening wonderfully. The official picks is going to be for Figueiredo, but I expect Garbrandt to put up a heck of a fight, if not potentially winning it outright. Maybe a saucy bet to start, because he's such a big underdog, just to see. Recently, the big underdogs have been winning on that initial fight. So it's always tough to figure out what's going to happen in these, but it's always exciting to watch. I can't wait to start UFC 300 with Figueiredo and Garbrandt. Going Figueiredo, I just think he'll be able to put in the work. It could be split decision too, like I wouldn't be surprised if we get a controversial judge's decision to start. Oh man, that would be something else, right? And be like, I should have won, and then like, they'll remember you fighting, and then they won't really remember what happened though. Okay, baby, Figueiredo. Let's go. Lightweight bat Bobby Green versus Jim freaking Miller, dude. I can't wait for this one. Bobby Green 31, 15-1 versus Jim Miller 37-17. Bobby Green coming off a brutal step-in fight against Jalen Turner, got knocked out, and the ref had a late stoppage. Fighting on the same card as Jalen Turner. I worry about Bobby's chin right now, and I'm a huge homer for Jim Miller. I want to see him win. I'm rooting for Jim. He's a Jersey guy, and I'm picking Jim. I'm probably gonna bet on Jim as well. I just think Bobby, if he might just get controlled, right? If he ends up getting in a bad position, if Jim comes in there with a great game plan, I mean, you have to think about it. He hasn't really been injured. He has always been training. He's been on a nice run recently too. Even like his loss was to Alex Hernandez by decision. So Miller's like been keeping it clean. He has had a finish or two in there. And I don't think he can finish Bobby Green. He may, but I'm picking Jim Miller all day. I just think the story's there. I just think Bobby coming off of brutal, vicious knockout at the hands of Jalen Turner is just not something that I feel comfortable even betting on and picking. So I'm always just gonna lean the other way. And plus, it's like a fan favorite, so double. I'm picking Jim Miller. I want Jim Miller. I think it's going to be a compelling fight. I really have no idea what's going to happen. I can see Bobby really standing to the outside, fighting similar style to like Garbrandt, trying to get in there, feint 1-2. And I think if Jim's not going to be afraid to stand out there, exchange with Bobby, right? But if he feels like Bobby's overcommitting at some point, that's where I feel like Jim wants to get Bobby, and then he'll work a takedown in there and try and get him into a bad position. So I worry about Jim's chin, but not saying that it's a glass chin, just as in like he could get caught because I think he'll try and dance with Bobby, but I think he'll end up getting the timing right. I think he's aging like fine wine, dude. He's in the zone. And like I said, Bobby is not a fighter that is flawless. He loses. He's coming off a loss. So probably he's going to win coming off a loss. It's usually how those guys kind of do. But I mean, this is not the situation I would want Bobby Green to make his return off of that loss against Jim Miller at UFC 300. Might take a chance, might get caught. Jim has the power to put the lights out, and that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm rooting for. That's what I'm picking is Jim Miller all day, baby. Let's go on to the women's strawweight division. We have Jessica Andrade 25-12 versus Marina Rodriguez 17-3 draws. Jessica Andrade 5-inch disadvantage, 3 inches in the reach and 3 inches on the leg kick. And man, I want to pick Marina so bad, right? She seems like such like, hey, you should probably pick her, but when Andrade steps into the cage, she's a scary person, right? She can put anybody's lights out, and Marina has had, I won't say the same competition, but the performances haven't been to the same level. And I think that's what 300 is going to be about. It's going to be about the people who can perform and not maybe spectacularly perform, but consistently perform. And I think you're going to see Andrade come in there and throw so many kicks and have really good defense for whatever Marina Rodriguez is going to throw at her. She's taken the lumps. She had a crazy 2023 coming off 2022. And I think she's gotten a little time to rest from her last fight. Let's actually take a look at this. Because her last one was Mackenzie Dern 5 months ago. And, like, look, she was fighting 2 months, 3 months. So she has a little bit of an extended time off. Her only loss was to Jan, and she's fighting for the belt. She lost to Blanche, but she got caught by Blanche. And, she's beaten Lemon. I think I got to take Andrade all day. And I know Marina, if you want to take a look at her comps recently, too, beat Waterson Gomez, shouldn't have been in the octagon. Lost to Jana Roba, which she's pretty good. She just beat Loopy pretty substantially and then getting KO'd by Lemons. Lost to Zahn as well, and then a win to Dern. It's going to be a very close fight, but I think the difference it's not just about fighting and exchanging blows. It's about what I've learned about the UFC is about significant strikes. And I think the damage that Andrade the output of that is far superior to Marina Rodriguez. And I think even if it goes to the judges' scorecard, which it might, but also Andrade has that capability of putting your lights out. So unless she doesn't get into bad position against Marina and she doesn't exploit her takedown and submission game, I think Andrade could definitely finish it on the feet. I can see a lot of nasty leg kicks getting in there and just Marina ending up on the cage and Andrade just doing some body work. I think she's, to me, out of so many of the women fighters, there's this mentality about her, Andrade, when she gets in there. And I think it's a difference in her division, and she's not afraid to lose, right? I think that was one thing maybe Blanchfields and Fiorot can definitely, at least, I don't know. I'm not speaking out of turn, but she's not afraid to lose. She's already lost, right? She's taken her lumps. She's gotten KO'd. She's gotten subs. She's gotten choked out. She went through the lows of the lows. And I think she's going to be enjoying the highs of training. And I think she's going to put on performance. I think that's my word for the UFC 300 is performance. And that's going to be Andrade putting on a performance and getting the fans excited. And no offense, Marina, I want you to win. I'm rooting for you, but I'm picking Andrade. Let's go to the next one. Lightweight bout on the early prelims starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. Jalen Turner versus Renato Money Moicano. 14-7 versus 18-5. Big reach advantage for Turner, cutting down to the lightweight. And I I got Turner winning again. I think he went through a little lull patch. He went through some tough competition, some tougher competition, I would say. Maybe not the toughest, but some tougher competition. Took a couple lumps, and then he got thrown in. I think he got thrown a bone with Bobby on short notice, and it was a terrible matchup for Bobby. No excuses. He got lumped. He got slumped, but I think that's exactly what Jalen Turner needed. He needed one of them, like, KO Ken times 10 moments, and he really had to spark up. And I think he's going to have that confidence in the octagon, right? I think he has title aspirations and title talent in the lightweight division at 6'3". I mean, he can really just poise such a threat if he stays composed, stays clean with it. Moicano, we love, just coming off a hard fought fight against Drew Dober. I mean, I picked Dober there. I actually thought Dober won. And that's kind of why I feel like Moicano this is not a good matchup for him either. I think it suits. I think you could see Turner. Moicano's going to try and lay more on Turner on the side of the octagon. So Jalen's going to have to be very active, move around, hit him with the strikes, hit him with the leg kicks, have good defense. But I could see a lot of stalling in this fight, a lot of defense posturing against it. And I think Turner comes out with the win here. I'm picking Turner. There's no way I'm picking Moicano. If he comes out with the win, I'll be happy for him, right? I'm not like this Jalen Turner. You're going to be I hope Jalen Turner does fantastic things in the UFC, and I think he's such an exciting prospect in the lightweight division. That's why I have to pick him. Like, I've watched him fight almost a handful of times. I feel like I've watched almost all of his fights on the cards recently. And I've seen him lose and I've seen him win, and I just think he has that winning mentality. And I'm not saying Moicano doesn't, and I just think when they step into the octagon together, they're just going to be very, very competitive. And I just think the difference is going to be in Turner's confidence, Turner's reach, Turner's technical ability versus Moicano. It's not going to look. Now, if he can get him down and grapple him, then I think he has a win. But I also think he'll exchange a little bit too much and might lose those exchanges. If you take the damage, it's even harder to produce the energy to take the person down that you might need to change the fight and control it. But Turner can make mistakes, get himself into bad positions, and if he's trying to overextend himself, if he's not finding the timing, we can see an interesting scrap. But I think we see a controlled Jalen Turner. I think we see a lot of movement from him. And I don't think he should be ashamed to just run around, kick this guy's legs, and try and catch him with something and just beat him up from the outside. That's your game. You got to play your game. And that's where I think Jalen Turner fights. I think Jalen Turner wins 3 rounds. In 5 rounds, he might not be able to have the gas and the output to do that. But in these 3-rounders, oh man, that would have been so cool if they made every fight 5 rounds, just like a 9-hour card. Oh my. But Jalen Turner, let's get him with the picks. Let's get him with the predictions. Let's get him with the win against the ending. Maybe with a nice knockout, too. Let's go Jalen Turner. On to the next. We're into the prelims. Off the early prelims, Sadiq Youssef versus Diego Lopes. 13-3 Youssef coming off a decision loss to Edson Barbosa. And my guy Lopes coming off a couple nice finishes. I can't even say. I think he slammed some guy, broke his arm, maybe subbed another guy. And then his debut was Masar Evoliv. I don't know how to say his name. I'm going to tell you what, man, I'm a huge Lopes fan. I'm a huge Lopes homer. I think he's got the goods, bro. I think he's supremely talented. And I'm not saying anything bad against Youssef. I think Youssef's going to have to try and do something crazy because just the way, if he can't finish Lopes early, just Lopes has so many tools and so much available, and he's not afraid to stand and fight. And if he can get Youssef to committing, and I think he reads the fights really well. I think Lopes is really good at managing his opponent. He seems like such a natural fighter when you watch him. He's just like, he just puts the other person in bad positions, right? Like, even if, and you watch his loss to Evola, he almost finished him in the first round. Like, he came in there on short notice, not a full training camp, and went toe-to-toe with an undefeated prospect that's arguably talking about getting a title shot. So I think Lopes is the real deal, Holyfield. I'm picking him. I don't know how he'll win. I like the money line, of course, but I think Lopes is just an absolute. I think he's on that killer list now. He might not be finishing every fight, but he's like my guy Cheppy, Peyton Talbot, Diego Lopes. They're on the bomber squad, man, and they just get it done anyway. Like I said, even if it's, they just get the better of the exchanges, right? They just win. Effective grappling, submission attempts, defense, control, just damage in exchange in bad positions, holding their own. And I think they just do things that the judges like additionally with having the ability to finish. Youssef is kind of a one-trick pony. He's not going to take you down. He might try and use his strength and leverage that, but still, I think Lopes can work off his back even if necessary. And I mean, as long as he doesn't get chinned up and knocked out, I don't see how Youssef really wins this fight. As much as I wanted him to, I did pick Barbosa way back in the day and against him, and I saw that happening, and I was rooting so much for the comeback, and it happened, and I was like, that's what I did. It was something that you just didn't see in Youssef that, like, I see it in Turner despite the record, right? 14-7 versus 13-3. You're like, oh, but like I think the caliber of prospects are completely different as well. I think Lopes just ascends over Youssef. I think he lost his number, and I think he'll have to go fighting a couple other. I think he's got a lot of development still to do, and I just think Lopes is he's just more developed. He had former fight experience. Like, it's tough to fight in the UFC because they can just bring in these guys that have outside experience, have a couple fights, and them arguably have a different skill level and talent gap that you're not even prepared for yet or haven't been preparing for because you've only been fighting lower end UFC opponents, right? So I think really challenging himself. I think Youssef is about to right here, and I think it's going to change his career. I think he takes a loss, and I got Lopes all day. I mean, I think I got Lopes by submission would probably be pretty spicy. I think he just gets this guy into a bad spot, and against the cage, trips him up, gets his back, hooks him in, elbow, body shot. You're going to see some liver shots. Lopes is going to get in there, do the damage, and get the win. And bang! Moving on to the next fight. Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. What do we have to say about that? Olympic champion Kayla Harrison versus Holly Holm, former UFC champion. One of the bigger fighting underdogs and favorites on the card. Kayla Harrison, I think she's top 3 with Zhang and Nickel, and I really want to pick Holly Holm. I really think it will be. I hope she weighs in, right? Like, again, when I'm recording this on Monday, the weigh-ins are on Friday. Anything can change in the week, so these picks are always very tentatively, and I honestly don't bet every pick, so I'm just picking them in terms of keeping overall record and just reporting on the UFC fight game. And that's why I'm going to pick Kayla Harrison here, because I want Holly Holm to win, and I think she'll put up a great competition. I think the numbers are so skewed, but it's about, I think Kayla Harrison, if she can weigh in, I think she'll just do this damage. Holly Holm is 42 years old. There's a sweet spot where you can be old and getting older, and then there's like, I want to say it's like 38. Once you hit like 39, I haven't seen too many people reach that age plus and still be in an advantageous position of prosperity in the UFC. Once you hit 39, 40, 41, there's something that's just you're not better than the competition that's younger than you. So, and I think that's what kind of occurs here. And I think Kayla Harrison comes in there hungry, comes in there, even if she's completely drained, she gets re-upped, and she does it over the course of the fight. I don't think she finishes Holly Holm. She may, but I also additionally think it will probably go to the judges' scorecard. I'm picking Kayla Harrison. I don't really know what too much to say. I think Holmes will do her best to try and almost, I don't want to say stall the fight, but tire Harrison out. I think you'll see a lot of leg kicks, I think you'll see a lot of intense movement. Everybody's going to be trying to get angles. The tension on UFC 300 is going to be tight as a wire. We're going to see everybody, on the verge of, it's glory or goat, you know what I mean? And that being said, I'm picking Kayla Harrison. I think we're going to see Holly Holmes, again, matriculate around the octagon, get some good exchanges in there, but overall just not have the significant strikes, lose out in volume, and even if Harrison tires in the third round, 29-28 Harrison, we might have to give it to her there. And that's where I think this one's going. On to our next matchup, featherweight division, Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling. Another debutante in a new weight division. We had Figueiredo moving up to bantamweight. Now we have Sterling moving up to featherweight, and how is he going to handle that? What does that mean? He's at a huge 4-inch height disadvantage. He's used to fighting somebody like Peter Yan. He's fighting TJ Dillashaw, and now he's fighting O'Malley and Qatar. So did he learn something in that O'Malley fight? Is he going to be way more patient? I hope so. I don't want to see him get caught again, because if there's one thing that I heard and I said before the O'Malley fight is Aljamain has been knocked out before. He got that head kick knocked out early in his career, and I hope something like that doesn't happen again. I hope he's able to dominate his opponent the way that he could, in terms of grappling and getting him to the ground. Now that he's at a big height disadvantage, the reach is there, so the exchanges might not be too bad if but it's just about how well he's able to read Qatar's striking to get in there. That's something he did not do against O'Malley, and he paid the ultimate price for it. And I worry about somebody like him coming off a loss. I really do. I bet on Sterling. I want to pick Sterling. I will pick Sterling because Qatar has not impressed me in much of his build up as much as Sterling does. So as I'm very hesitant in this, but that being said, I do like Aljamain to probably get it by decision. I think he'll just get enough favorable positions. I think he'll be way more patient. I kind of feel he had that like Aldo-ness against the Sugar Show and wanted to get at him, and he got out of his game and got out of his zone and paid for it, right? Got chinned up, slumped up, beat up. Not as clean as McGregor Aldo, but I think that's just what happened. I think he felt the pressure and the tension of the moment, and I think he's actually one of the people that won't feel that pressure and the tension of the moment. I think he's just so enthralled in the fight game. Him, Marab, he was there with Charlie Campbell last week, Sarah Longo. I just think they're going to treat it as another night, and I think that's why I'm going to pick Sterling, and I did bet on him slightly, here and there. I do think he's, you don't win if you don't defend the bantamweight title against, Pereira without being a killer yourself. And yeah, he lost to O'Malley, but that was one night, and that night's it's gone. It's never happening again. It happened, and he's got to move on. And I think that he's able to move on. I think they got good mentality there. I think Aljamain all day. Like I said, when I was looking at it, it's like, what has Qatar really done that makes you go, man, he can beat somebody that's arguably more talented than him, right? Not going to have as vicious of a weight cut, 10 extra pounds. And I think Sterling does really well against bigger opponents, in terms of, except O'Malley. All right, picking Sterling. Let's move on to the feature prelim of the evening. Yuri Prohashka versus Alexander Rakic in the lightweight division. 29-4 coming off a loss against 14-3 coming off a loss. And man, I don't really know what to say about this one. They have Yuri as an underdog, very slight underdog, be it that. And I think it's just because he's coming off the injury and the loss, and there's not much seen on him in the last 2 years, arguably, right? Like, he fought Glover at the end of, what was that, 22 maybe, right? Or like, something like that. The last half of 22, got hurt and lost to Pereira a while ago. I don't think it was that bad of a knockout. I think he just got caught in a bad position, and the ref stopped it to prevent additional damage, but he was out. The left caught him. There was no shot by Yuri. You watch him, he goes down like a fucking ton of bricks. Excuse my language. But I can't sit here and pick Rakic, and if he loses, knowing Yuri's going to get the win at good value. I'm all about the value. I'm all about Yuri, and I'm all about the redemption. I think he gets it done. It might not be as pretty. I think he gets the finish, though. I think this one might not go the distance. I think Rakic is one of those guys that when he got announced on UFC 300's card, he's going to be like, wow, that was a little bit surprising one. Him, Qatar, Brundage, there's a bunch of people that, like, yeah, there's a bunch of great champs in there, but some of their opponents are not all as top tier. And this is not a slight at Rakic because he is a betting favorite and Yuri has to produce something, but that's what I believe what we'll see. I think when Yuri lost the face off against Pereira, man, dude, that's another crazy thing. They always have fighters who fought previously on the same card, Pereira and Prohaska. And I just think it's always crazy when when you find those. And there's probably I got to do a list of that every time. I'm going to do that. But Prohaska, I'm just gonna pick him because if he loses, I'll be fine taking the loss on my record with him losing. But if Rakic was to lose to Yuri and then I have to take it and Rakic takes it, I'm gonna be like, okay, very similar. Something is like, what have you done? And then I was looking at what has Yuri done. I mean, Yuri beat Glover, but he got lucky to beat Glover in a way. Yuri fights very reckless. He can definitely get caught and knocked out, right? He Dom Reyes, and then he fought. Who did he fight? Uzdemir. You know, he was knocked out arguably in almost every one of those fights and or losing, but we love him. So that's where I think this comes in. But I think he puts on a performance today. Again, performance. Yuri Prohaska. Very, very nice. Maybe something crazy. Reverse fist, elbow, kick, knee. Yuri's gonna give us the highlight of the night. That's kind of my prediction. I think, maybe he comes out flying knees, dude. That would be incredible. But Yuri's gonna give us something crazy. There's no way, because if he's also fought in really high caliber people, Uzdemir and Reyes. I know he against Reyes, people can say that, but he also fought for a title as well. I got Yuri. I'm thinking my I don't even know if there's a bold prediction, but I think he gives us something crazy, something that we don't expect, and that's give us a reason to love him some more. And baby, it's time for the main event of UFC 300. Leading us off, arguably prospect number one, favorite number one, Bo Nickel versus Cody Brundage in the middleweight division, 5-0 versus 10-5. And to say this one, there's an opportunity that this is the first time Bo Nickel takes any damage. And I almost think Bo Nickel wants to take a little bit of damage. I almost think he wants to bite down on his mouth guard and get in there, just because, if he fights somebody so clean again, it might just add to the pressure. So I think it being a little bit closer, I think we do see him take damage. I'm not saying he's going to do it on purpose. You always want to fight clean and flawlessly, but there's also a chance that, he goes in there and gets rocked with an uppercut, right? Or a knee. If Brundage can visualize and prepare for a situation Nichols is training so hard. He's so advanced. I'm not picking Bo Nichols. I'm not picking against Bo Nichols there, excuse me. I'm picking Bo. Bo's the show, bro. Bo is the show, and I can't wait for him. I would love to just see him keep winning at middleweight. I think he does, but I think Brundage does some damage. I think Brundage gets him rocked a little bit. I think they exchange, and I think we're going to be, oh, that was a good left by Rakic. She's, wobbled Nickel, and then maybe they go in for a takedown. Nickel can settle in, run on, and then, that might be it, right? Think about the Umar fight from a month ago. My man got absolutely rocked, but then he grabbed on him and beat him up for the rest of the time. So, it's a very large possibility that can happen. And that's what I kind of think happens, And I just think Bo Nickel it's crazy. I don't want to call it rock, paper, scissors because it's so much more dynamic but I think there's between all the skills you can have, wrestling, striking, grappling, they're all very valuable. I think the elitist of the wrestlers beat the most elite of the strikers. I think that top 1% outlier of wrestler is better than the top 1% outlier of strikers. But I take the strikers 98, 99% of the other times. If they're arguably more skilled, right? Technical as a striker, background in that, you know what I mean? Somebody like Leon O'Malley, like that top echelon. They train the defense too. They're not schlubs, so they're also practicing and training, but they also have that absolutely lethal striking ability. I take Bo Nickel over those guys. That type of fighter, the Habib, Islam. We're gonna take him. I'm taking Bo. That's the guy. That's the pedigree. That's the blueprint. DC, even John Jones. John Jones more technical striker, not as much as a wrestler. But dude, you can't tell me John Jones don't wrestle. So he out wrestled DC. We just put him on the list. Bo Nickel. Let's go for the show. I think he probably gets the finish, but I would say this one goes over a round and a half if that's the bet. I haven't really looked too much at the props, but I can see this one going a little bit longer than the other ones. Definitely past the first round. Next, with an absolute smacker. Again, dude, Dana, why didn't we do 5 rounds for all of these? We have Charles Oliveira versus Armin Sarukian, 34-9 versus 21-3. Both coming off a win, both coming off great wins. Were they both off of Dariush? Who did Oliveira? Was that his last fight? Was Dariush? So they're both coming off Dariush KOs. Just to confirm, I was a little slow there. Man, so I'm going to bet Oliveira very transparently. I love the odds, and I think he's got an opportunity, but I am officially picking Sarukian for the pick'em page. I think just in terms of what we have presented ahead of us in a 3-round bout with opportunity, I think he could get caught. I hope he doesn't fight too emotionally. If you have been listening to Sarukian talk in the last couple weeks, he has admitted to stuff like that. He has, and that's a big part of the fight game is being mentally composed, mentally comfortable in there. And that's something that I worry about in this massively high stakes because, he believes himself to be fighting for the belt, and anything less than that is, and if Oliveira is not cooperative, like, Oliveira doesn't lose to many people. He's just got announced a new baby boy. He went on a huge run after the last one. Beat Dariush Sarukian though. I'm picking Sarukian here for the official picks. Just because I think when he can just try and wrestle Oliveira something similarly to Islam, and he can just look to exchange and see if he can do some damage, I will say massive advantage for Oliveira to be in Las Vegas versus having to go to like Abu Dhabi or something like that for Sarukian on a different kind of card. If that was the case, I think it's way different. But so that's why I actually think Charles is a live dog, because I think he can actually do the damage against Sarukian, kicks, be it that, and get him into a bad position and get finished, because Sarukian can make a mistake, feel the pressure of the moment, and just Charles has been there, bro. Charles has danced with everybody, but officially picking Sarukian, think he's going to hopefully harness that energy and that fear and the emotion, right? All of it in one, and just take it out on Oliveira. I think he's not going to be afraid to exchange, and if he does damage and gets Oliveira in a bad spot, Charles is always in bad positions. Even in his win against Dariush, he's on his back. He's dodging left. He's dodging right on the ground. But against Mahashev, he wasn't able to. And I think that's what we'll see from Sarukian. That's what my prediction of what's gonna happen, and that's where I'm picking is Armin Sarukian. Man, if this was 5 rounds though, Charles all day. If this is 5 rounds, I think Charles actually wins. But 3 rounds, we're in there. Bang! On to the BMF Championship. Not a belt I really like to acknowledge that much, but we have an absolute 4th of July grand finale spectacular here. Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway at lightweight. And I tell you what, man, Max he seems like he's got that mentality monster on cue, bro. My prediction here is this fight goes the distance. I don't think either of these guys get finished by one another. I think they'll be able to navigate, again, 3 rounds, navigate the distance, navigate the damage, navigate the scrums, and figure out something in between. I think Max is going to be very good at his elusiveness, and I think Gaethje, like I said, he might fight it slower because it is somebody like Max, and calculate it and try and time it out and fight a little bit more conservative against somebody. I mean, I don't doubt that. He'll probably just go try and take down Max. Imagine Gaethje by sub. That'd be crazy. I'm picking Gaethje. I just think he's got the win conditions, right? Like, he could do something crazy like that, or head kick KO, or, liver kick, or, dude, we might, they could just be exchanging, right? Here's what I can see happening, too. Just exchanging, and all of a sudden, he just hit Max with a liver shot, just shut him down. So, I want to see Max win. Everybody loves Max, and I actually think he's better off, even if he loses, for challenging Gaethje. He'll get Topuria, even if he loses Gaethje. I think Topuria Volk will get a rematch. I think Holloway and Topuria And we'll see what happens with O'Malley and Marab. We got a lot of stuff to shake out. But even if Max loses, I think it was a good challenge for him. I think he's an admirable warrior and a true sensei and a samurai to the fight game, a true cage warrior in the heart of hearts. And this is an absolute. I got goosebumps just being able to watch these guys exchange in the octagon, man. Thank you, UFC. Thank you, Dana White. Thank you, everybody else. UFC 300, everybody in the organization. Thank you for all the competitors, their friends, their families, man. Thank you for putting on these spectacular shows that we all get to watch week in and week out, man. Thank you. So appreciative. Thank you for being great champions, great warriors, and great human beings. Some of the best in all of the sports world, in the mixed martial arts arena, in the UFC. Let's get it on, baby. Justin Gaethje by something. Justin Gaethje by judge's decision. Justin Gaethje by submission. Justin Gaethje by liver shot. Something like that. I just think he's the human highlight reel, bro. You don't pay him out the way you've paid that man out, and he doesn't do something like that too. Maybe not something as spectacular, but maybe something, like I said, very memorable, right? I think Yuri's going to give us that spectacular, right? But Gaethje could be like, oh man, one of the only guys to finish Max, a killer liver shot, something that we can remember for a long time. Bang! Let's go, Gaethje, into the co-main event, women's strawweight title, Zhang Wei Li versus Yan Nan, 24-3 versus 17-3. And I mean, I cannot pick against Wei Li. There is no way I'm picking against the Zhang dynasty all day, man. I think she is absolutely one of the strongest women in the organization and the promotion and possibly in the entire world. For pound, if she's not on the pound for pound ranking list, there's something wrong with the pound for pound ranking list. That being said, I think she actually puts Jan's lights out. I think Jan's a great competitor. I think Jan will sit there and exchange, but I think at the end of the day, she'll get the worst of those exchanges. I think unless she can put something right, you have to have that next level ascension for Jan to win. She has to put that front. Jan has to win with a front kick, something like that. You know what I mean? She has to win with the spinning elbow. She has to produce that moment of her winning the championship. Because I was watching a video and it talks about the people's 15 minutes of fame, the fighters who come off of big upsets, right? Were they former champions regaining the title, right? And as big underdogs, or when the big underdog won, what did they do after that? Can Jan make that underdog moment? Can she make that finish to hit her 15 minutes into fame and dethrone the champion? That's why we watch. That's the possibility. She may be able to watch something like that. And I feel like, not saying the fight nights haven't been fun to watch, and I love watching all of them, but I feel like we have not had that oh my gosh moment in in a little while in the UFC. And I think we're about to have a few of those, right? I mean, whether it's Leon at the end. I mean, we had Volkanovski a couple months ago, but I feel like we are going to have an oh my god finish. I don't know if it's going to be in this fight. It might be in the next fight. But somebody, I think Yuri produces one of those, right? But he's not that big of an upset, right? I'm thinking, like something like that. Even Jamal Hill, right? Like Jamal Hill head kick or something. Like, I don't know. We could see something crazy. I don't even know who I'm picking in that last fight, but all I know is I'm going with Wei Li here. I'm going with the Zhang dynasty. Official pick. She's a huge favorite on the card. I think Jan has a chance, but I also think Zhang is in peak form. I think when the champions are there, they're there for a little while, and I'm not saying the competition's not there, because I think Jan is very competitive for this fight, and she'll be worthy adversary for a championship competition. But I think Zhang Wei Li is the champ for a reason. She only has not been the champ because of a head kick spectacular KO Rose Namajunas, right? It's her time to shine. Continue going, Zhang. Let's go, Wei Li. And still, now we're on to the main event of the evening. Versus Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill, man, for the light heavyweight title on the line. And boy, oh boy, look at Jamal's picture, man. He's just staring right at me, breaking down this fight. Poatan too. Oh man, this is going to be something else, man. When these guys come out, it is going to be an absolute explosion. There's just going to be bombs going off all over the place. I'm really worried about Jamal's rehab and Jamal's training camp because he hurt that last June, July ish, correct? Maybe even like March, April, a little bit earlier. Because then we had Ankalaev and Blachowicz draw, and then there was Glover and Hill, right? Glover and Hill. It was Hill, and then Hill got hurt. And then Pereira. Oh, man. I'm digressing, dude. My brain is blown just seeing who's going to be picked here. I want to pick Jamal Hill so bad because, I mean, Pereira is my guy. I love Pereira. I have a Pereira auto card. It's it's a great possession. I want him to win. He signed it Poetan, Stonehand. He's a fan favorite. But do I do the reverse and I pick Jamal Hill in case he does win? I don't even know who Jamal's lost to, man. He's lost to injury. The rehab and the injury worry me so much, man. If what leg was it? If Alex kicks it and what if he pops it again? It could be an underwhelming fight. Like don't want to pick Hill for that reason. I'm picking Pereira. I think I have him in a parlay somewhere. I'm picking Pereira just because of that opportunity. The leg kicks he's the best he's the most potent leg kicker in the UFC. Maybe not the best, the most efficient, the most potent, right? Plus the hands, I think he'll just end up doing the damage. And the ref may seem like he'll stop it early. This is not going that long. Somebody's getting knocked out here. We'll go into the second round maybe. I think a second round finish by one of these guys is probably the most likely outcome. I just think by the time they get in there, have some deep breaths, somebody's going to not move one time and they're going to be on the tracks. Is it going to be Hill or is it going to be Pereira? I just think just the opportunity for Pereira to actually kick the leg is the reason I'm going to pick Pereira. We're going to go down. Not too much more into that. This one might not even last as long as I'm going to talk about it. But I do think Jamal Hill could very well win. I think he wants to win more than anything else in the world. I mean, and if he does win, I'll be happy for Jamal Hill. He's a great story. He's a great fighter. And if he's able to come off an injury and beat somebody like Poetan, that's just going to add to Jamal Hill as being a UFC lore and lord. So, but the official pick is Pereira. We're going to do a quick recap of UFC 300. We're going Figueiredo, Jimmy Miller, Jessica Andrade, Jalen Turner for the early prelims. On the prelims, Diego Lopes, Kayla Harrison, Aljamain Sterling, Yuri Prohaska. Onto the main card, Bo Nickel, Armin Sarukian, Justin Gaethje, Zhang Wei Li, and Alex Poetan Pereira. We're doing a $100 challenge. Comment your picks in the comments below. If you pick them all right, I'll give you $100. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll be live at twitch.tv/pwelsh. I appreciate everybody watching. And if you can subscribe, that'd be great. Have a great one. Stay blessed out there. Peace and love, everybody.